Like, like, women are like babies, dog. You know, you have to kind of like channel her into the path that you'd like her to evolve into being.
So like, does that mean that like you have to establish a role for her that you want her to play in your life, or am I misinterpreting this?
You see, there's two different things.
You know, we made a realization that a lot of guys in the modern world are no longer approaching girls physically, but then they prefer, you know, polishing their Instagram and Facebook so that they can be perceived as people of a higher social class,
Avatars.
which
Very
some might
advanced.
be, but most of them in the modern world, you know, considering their socio-economic state,
Socio-economic states and the political socio-economic fucking factors that contribute to this life, because of economical factors are very important, guys, because money, man. Esh. Okay.
yeah, money
Nonetheless,
plays a
which
huge
is
role. But okay, dude, now since we're talking about money, I've heard a lot of, you know, I've heard the likes of Tay say that girls in the modern world, like, they want money. If you are a young guy and you don't have money, like, you don't have a chance. What do you think about that? Do you think that is a fact, or do you think that's just an opinion?
I think that is a fact. It's very factual, bro. Like, we have understood the game of being hunters in the jungle. And we always see how girls run away fast from you when you don't have money. They run fast like a gazelle. But when you have money, we have seen through different social experiments and our own personal experiences, dog. Girls walk back from you slowly like a tortoise when you have money. They just don't walk out of your life or walk back on you.
Wait,
What?
did you just say that you just saw from our social?
Experiment.
Yeah. How did you see that? How did you come to that realization in the
Okay,
social
like
experiments?
for starters, dog, like typical example, dog.
Hmm.
All the girls that we approached,
Yeah.
it was all because of it was mental stimulation. Truthfully speaking, it was
Okay. Could you please give me more context on what you mean by mental stimulation?
mental stimulation. I mean, like people that are sapiosexuals.
Yeah.
You know, people that actually come to the podcast and always find a way to share the thoughts that they don't share usually with the closest people around them. And today, and as the past few weeks, we saw a lot of people. Am I lying?
No, you're not lying, bro.
Did you see? Okay, I don't want to mention names, but like there was some other hand that was, hey, chakras in fit to lying. I don't even want to talk about such superstition, but like she's way too intellectual in a way. You know, she understands life from different forms.
Yeah.
She just doesn't have like one perspective. And I never thought I could meet like someone like
Someone
her.
like that. Yeah, in the
You
modern
know,
world. You
in
know,
the
I
modern
thought they
world.
were all, you know, superficial, wanting, you know, the touch and go things, you know, the things that
Okay.
people can see that are tangible. But then I remember, like, we had an episode, or like, I did not have this episode with you, but then it was with Smangalis, a guy from UJ,
Oh yeah, yeah.
about how your mind is an appreciating asset and your looks are a depreciating asset. And after, you know, having that conversation that we had with her, I realized that some girls do actually put more emphasis on enriching their minds instead of just, you know, focusing on on how they look. And how do they look? Why do girls want guys that have money? Because of they want guys that will improve their lifestyles so that
Okay.
they can keep on posting, which leans more on the side of, you know, how they want to be seen, how they want to look. But they don't really put too much emphasis on how they think, on how they see the world, on the thing that will outlast how they look, which is their mind, a compounding asset.
A compounding asset, it's a appreciating asset, and looks are depreciating assets because of looks are only temporary. We all were born in this body as young
Yeah.
infants, and we went through the evolution stage. We became toddlers, we became young adults, we become adults. Then eventually we get back to being like elders, you know, grown people that
Vulnerable like we were
vulnerable
when we were still toddlers.
type shit. That's why they say the more you grow older, the more you become childlike. It's the
Yeah.
cycle of life, you know, Ouroboros, creation of life and death. It's always like that. Everyone in this world is a utilitarianism. Everybody's serving their own best interests. And most importantly, we understand how feminine have been so programmed and have been given this, Karin, what do they call this? notion
Yeah.
that like don't date a broke nigga.
Don't date it. Yeah.
There's people that have
Do you
been
think like do you okay, well we get that. That is what they are told. But then I think do you as guys, would you advise guys to like understand why they are being told that? Or do you just disagree with that notion?
I mean, question every information or everything that you are told.
Hmm.
Because of if you don't question, you are like a sheep. You know, people only tell you things because of they have already plans for the things they want to do. So it's like them telling a young man to understand. It's like them telling a young man to go get rich and fuck a bunch of fucking women and be a slut of a man. But in reality, when we look at it, that's what the society is pushing. Which you know what, kings, young kings, focus on yourself, get your money right, build your kingdom, and all the peas and the queens will be there. And what happens when the queens are there? You can't even tell which one is a real queen because you're just gonna treat them all the same. You're gonna throw them
But
in one basket.
but they like that as well, don't
That's
they?
ish, dog. That's what I'm
They
saying.
like that as well.
How?
So do you blame
Okay,
the guys that are doing that? Like,
okay. Can I
yeah,
ask you one question?
go on.
What makes you think they like it? What makes you say that?
Because if they did not like that, then they would not be behaving in the same way so that they can keep on getting the same one guy in the 1% that they know for sure that that guy won't treat them the way that they assume they want to be treated in.
Can you please? I
Elaborate
beg your
further.
pardon. Yeah. Now, can you like break
Because,
it down?
okay,
Cause
could you
like,
please ask me the question again to be able to give that answer
yeah,
again?
yeah, yeah. What makes you say that women like being treated like that? And what treatment am I specifically speaking about when I say once you have that kingdom as a man
Oh, yeah, maybe
and
could you
you're
please
feeling,
like just give me a bit more
yeah, let
context
me
on
give
that? Then
you
yeah, because there's a
a
bit.
thorough context on that.
Mhm.
There cannot be a kingdom without a king. Neither can there be a kingdom without a neck, which is a supporting queen. You know,
Neck.
yeah, I mean, I just put it like in biological terms and biblical terms.
For sure.
You
Okay.
know, so uh, if you already have everything you want in this world, then you can like some way somehow. I'm not saying you should want or pursue or chase having a queen, but what happens if you've met 100 queens in your life, but you've dismissed them because of they all behave or are similar to concubines?
What happens?
What happens then? Because at the end of the day, the modern society, the red pill, has galvanized us men into becoming this head honchos, and that's how it's supposed to be, right? I won't say it's toxic masculinity.
Isn't it toxic stoicism?
Um, Toxic stoicism is the revolt of emotions. It's like you know that you are like intrinsically inside of you as an individual. We all have we all have so we all have our own
Inadequacies, shortcomings, or
no, I should like we all have this thing inside of us that we yearn for more than everything. And that thing most of the time, it's love or to be understood or to be respected. Most
they were
specifically,
simpatico together though.
yeah, you know, most importantly to us gents, is that, you know, we want to be loved or we want to be able to love without holding back, without this nonchalant performative stunts and tricks
Yeah.
that we pull on a daily basis just because of we don't want that person to see you as a sim. And that very same person is online. Ash, that's crazy,
Hey,
dog. You see,
shots.
so it's just gonna miser because of you don't wanna be too much.
Perceived as a
You see.
sim.
So
But then that makes you a guy that conforms to the norms of society.
now,
Or what?
like the norms of society, né,
Yeah.
already like we have been programmed, dog. We know that, right? We already understand why they are pushing the red pill. It is to revolutionize young men to be awakened, to be like, okay, this is the people that are actually killing most of us.
Mhm.
Because most men go through the West States because of heartbreak. You know, it's romantic relationships that really bring ruin to a man. They can really destroy a man in most
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
That's why, like the red pill, people like, Tate and all of them, they advocating for us young men that young men stay in your grind, hit the gym, get your money, and all the shit that you're worrying about is eventually gonna come through.
But then, what is it exactly that young men are worrying about? Is it having access to a lot of women, or is it being loved by
Subject.
women, or like having access to them? Because of having access to something and being loved by something are two different things, don't you think?
Having access to something,
And being loved by something,
yeah.
do you think those two things are similar or dissimilar?
I think they are in a way unilateral.
Mm-hmm.
They balance each other. For you to have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Mm-hmm.
girls, you need to have access to the girls. First things first. And for you to be loved by a lot of girls, you need to be that prominent figure. You have to be that top 1%.
Yeah, fair.
But like, but this is the crazy thing. That's the route you have to take to become an exceptional man. I understand it as a man, and I understand it in serving my purpose as a masculine figure.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when I've reached that stage? Once I've reached that stage, I have all the money in the world. I can fuck any bitch I want. I can get any car I want. Will I still be able to love? And when I say love, I don't mean like, okay, I like that bitch. She's submissive. She does the fuck I say she does. She suck my dick. She cook nice. That's it. Do you love her for that? Or do you actually love because if you can actually have genuine conversations with this person and be like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't see it like that. Because
But then I once heard, Andrew Tate say I think he was being asked about to define his like
uh,
love. Okay, I don't remember like how the interview went, but then like it was a clip. Clips. There's a lot of things that are not taken into consideration in a clip. I'm fully aware of that. But then he was asking a question that if I am a man and I
yeah.
do all of the things that she needs, and she also reciprocates her love to me by showing me respect, by being loyal to me, isn't that love?
Uh, is that
Because
is that his code? Is that what he said?
I'm
Or
I'm
you paraphrasing?
paraphrasing. Yeah, I'm paraphrasing.
So are you stating it as a question or a
Yeah, I'm
statement?
stating, well, it's a statement. Then, like, it's also a question to you because of what you were talking about. Because of it had to do with access and love. So if a guy can be able to provide, all of the things that a girl needs, or like if a guy is capable of doing that, then the likelihood of a guy being able to have access to a girl is quite higher
Yeah,
than of
yeah.
a guy who is incapable of doing that for
Shoot,
a girl.
shoot.
So does that mean that a guy can only be loved once he shows signs of being able to give once
Subject.
he's once he has once he shows signs of being able to make a girl's life more simpler? And if a guy isn't capable of doing that, then he is not worthy of being loved?
Hmm. Hmm. That's a very great question because that's the root of modern dilemma. Oh, what can not modern dilemma, it's moral dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we all know what's right and what's not. Discernment, everybody has some sort of discernment, but sometimes your discernment can be used to destroy instead of building. I mean, the wisest man in the Bible, Solomon, had over like 700 wives, and
Mm-hmm.
he had over like 2K or 1,000 concubines, all females. But then he folded for that one girl that made him turn against the word of God himself, the God that gave him everything that
Yeah.
he had,
Yeah.
the wisdom he had, the kingdom that he had, the riches, the treasures.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back, dog. It cycles back to no matter how many times you can receive love from a woman, but if you actually don't, like, like women are like babies, dog. You know, you have to kind of like channel her into the path that you'd like her to evolve into being,
So
rather
like, does
than
that mean that like you have to establish a role for her that you want her to play in your life, or? Am I misinterpreting this?
You see, there's two different things between
Sure.
picking and choosing a role. A role you always choose because of you choose who you want to be. But picking is who you are. You pick. There's always two sides, dog. When you pick, it's the good side or the bad side. You wanna be governed by God or you wanna be governed by
Yeah.
Lucifer. So, like most definitely, dog, the women in this generation, if they don't wanna be governed by God, who are they governed by?
By the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, how can you establish a role for a person that already has chosen a role?
By showing them the consequences of the leader that they chose to govern their lives.
Oh,
Huh?
damn.
No?
No, are you saying it's a statement or it's a question?
I'm answering your question that you
That's what I'm saying. Like, by exposing and showing them that their master or their leader is actually detrimental
to
to
them
their
in the long
whole,
run.
like, besides in the long run, to their whole being.
Mhm.
Because once you start to use dog sex toys, you be videoizing, like, they call it a private part for a reason, dog.
Yeah, for sure.
And once you
Yeah.
start to make it
Private
public,
part, self-explanatory.
you've already lost a piece of God inside you, dog. That pureness, that inner voice is no longer working. And it's hard, dog, for a
Is it
woman.
no longer working, or do they just get better and better and better at forcing themselves to avoid that inner voice?
Oh, I think, dog, the more like you do wrong, your conscience slowly dies.
Mhm.
It's like a fire, dog. The more you pour water, you pour sand, you pour all these particles that actually destroy the flame of the fire. Eventually, it's gonna cease to exist.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that, dog.
Oh, like you are punishing that behavior. Like you don't want that to continue. So like you are using that as an antidote to that continuing happening.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you doing that, you slowly but surely killing yourself.
Mhm.
Cause once the light vanishes, ain't no
Yeah.
coming back, dog. Only God can bring that life back.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
light. You know. So in contrary,
Yeah,
dog, to the everything that we have like the data that we have accumulated
for
and
sure.
collected, we will still see, dog. And this is not something that's stopping. It's recurring,
It's
dog.
yeah, we are carrying for sure.
And it's still gonna get
And
worse.
you
That's
know,
the